Hi, welcome to Life in DNA with Amanda Renee. Today we're discussing ethnicity breakdowns. Let's get started. Okay, so ethnicity breakdowns. I know a lot of people get DNA tests simply to find this information out, and I know that was one of the major things I wanted to find out when I got my own DNA test done. It's fun to check out. They're not 100% accurate as far as, the percentages change. They'll update them once in a while because of, each platform, their labs go by different things. They measure different things. They should all be fairly close, though, depending on where you upload your DNA. Well, when there's an update, it's fun to see what changed, if any new areas pop up, what does it show that there's more of. But yeah, they'll update them every now and then. The more people that test in an area, the more accurate the information is going to be. Now, on my personal breakdown, I have my DNA on Ancestry. I have it on my heritage, but I haven't paid to get the information broken down yet. All I can see are some matches. And then I have it on Family Tree DNA. And all three of those do the ethnicity breakdowns. In Ancestry, they have England and Northwest Europe, and I'm 43%. Scotland, I'm 30%. That one was my favorite. I was really excited about that. Wales, 13%. Ireland, 9%. Germanic Europe, 3%. Sweden and Denmark, 2%. Now, the fun thing about Ancestry is they will, as long as they know if you have one parent that's tested, they can definitely tell you, well, this you got from your father, this you got from your mother. Even if you don't have a parent tested, neither one of my parents have tested, it will at least break it down and show you, okay, parent 1 gave you this, parent 2 gave you this. I know, because of certain matches, which parent is which, and I also knew that I probably had more Scottish on my father's side, so I kind of knew where to look as far as Ancestry on that. And now Family Tree DNA breaks it down a little different. They lump England, Wales, and Scotland all together. And so mine is 95%. And Ireland, 4%. Now Ireland on Ancestry, I had 9%. So you see they measure it a little different. They have Baltic, less than 1%, Finland, less than 1%, Anatolia, Armenia, and Mesopotamia, less than 1%. And when I was writing all this down for the podcast, I realized, well, I guess I need to do a little more digging on that and figure out where that lines up with my breakdown in Ancestry. Mostly because it's so much easier to do research on Ancestry, at least for me. That was where I kind of learned how to do research, so I could find it. I can probably find out where in my line that comes from with doing a little digging. The thing that got me thinking about this lately is my husband and I are going to Scotfest in Tulsa. I was so excited to learn that I was 30% Scottish, because for some reason I've always just been drawn to Scotland. I want to go there so bad someday. I think it's gorgeous. I love the accent. Pretty much everything except for the food I even love the whiskey. But so when we were getting ready for Scotfest, besides buying our kilts, I wanted to see, I knew on my husband's breakdown he did have some Scottish. I knew the main clan on my side because my grandmother was Bruce. She came from all the way back. You can trace her line all the way back to King Robert the Bruce. And I've always known that. I've always studied that history. I love that time period in history. So I knew my clan. But I wanted to find out what my husband's was. So that while we're there, we can get t-shirts with our different clan names on them. And so I wanted to get that information. The way I went about doing that, I went to his ethnicity breakdown, where it showed which parent he has had his dad test. To help me solve that family mystery, we had his dad test. So we knew his Scottish heritage came from his mother. So I looked on her line. And with all the information, I've built the trees out fairly far. And I've had help from different relatives we've discovered along the way, filling that information in. And so I would find a line and follow it out. A lot of our relatives, except for his German relatives, most of the other relatives came to America long, long ago. We're talking early 1800s, late 1700s. Early 1700s for some of our families. So I had to go back a ways on the tree and look for a name that kind of sounded Scottish. And I was hoping that I would, just find something that kind of stood out. Something with a Mick in it or something that would stand out and kind of be a red flag. Here's the Scottish heritage. And I got lucky, and there it was. And his was McFarlane. And sure enough, found that ancestor, found the records. They came over from Scotland. Their father was from Scotland. So we've had his clan name, McFarlane. I'm thankful that I already knew about the Bruce line, because unless you know Scottish history a little bit, you're not going to see that name and think Scottish, or at least I wouldn't have. So then I decided, I was messing around with all of that, and I wanted to make sure that I had my main clan. I knew that was probably going to be the biggest one, and I still need to do a little bit of digging. And I looked on my mom's. I get a very tiny bit of Scottish from my mother's side. So I did the same thing and figured out which side. It ends up coming from my grandfather's side of the family, and their last name was McMurray. So again, I got kind of lucky. I didn't have to dig super far. They had really Scottish names. And this is the fun thing with genealogy. There's always a question to be answered. Like now, preparing for this podcast, writing down my ethnicities, now I'm questioning, okay, I know where a tiny bit of my Scottish is from my mom with the McMurrays. How much of my Scottish heritage is really from the Bruces, or are there others that I can look up and find out that I'm a part of? And also the difference in the Irish heritage. 4% on family tree DNA and 9% ancestry. That's kind of a big difference. And usually they have maps you can click on, and it'll show you exactly the regions. And sometimes those will overlap with different countries. I know when I was researching my husband's German side, he actually has very little German percentage, but his ancestors came from Germany not that many generations ago. So a little bit of digging. I haven't done much on that, but the little bit I found was that the German ancestors actually migrated from more of the Swedish countries to Germany in fairly recently. So they didn't really mix with actual Germans much. So even though on paper it looks like, oh, well, yep, they're German. His family came from Germany. That's not necessarily the whole picture. And it's fun looking at those things, especially if you know how to dig and where to look. When I first found his relatives and stopped at Germany, we assumed, okay, well, he has a big German heritage. Well, that's not what the DNA shows. So then you dig a little deeper and you realize, oh, well, and I need to do a little more of that now that I have the more access on Ancestry. They had recently had a sale, and I definitely recommend jumping on that, especially since now they're starting to charge for the DNA services. If you get the actual Ancestry account services, you will get the DNA access also. And I took advantage of that sale, and now I can access the USA records, the world records, some military records, and the newspaper.com, which is a game changer, let me tell you. I found so much information trying to solve that family mystery that I'll talk about in future podcasts. I found so much information that helped me just in old newspapers. I mean, that's invaluable. And so I'm excited now that I have access to more records. I can do a little more digging into those things. That really helped me when I was looking into the Scottish stuff, because if you only have the basic Ancestry package, you only have access to USA records. And if you're someone who's filled in most of your recent family tree, you're going to hit some brick walls real fast. And especially if your ancestors migrated over, more recently, you're going to come to brick wall really fast. And then you're going to be stuck. So I recommend hitting them when they have sales going on. Also, sometimes if you sign up for the low one and just pay monthly for a couple months and then cancel, they will sometimes drop the price quite a bit to keep you as a customer. And I've done that before too, and that helps. I mean, every little bit helps, because honestly, you can spend a bunch of money trying to find out about your family. Let me see, what else was I am very curious now, after looking at the family tree DNA. I hadn't done much digging there. I do want to check out on their website the breakdown. Why did they lump, I guess maybe because it's the United Kingdom, but England, Wales, and Scotland is all lumped together. I'd be curious to see if they have a way to see kind of where in those places were some of that breakdown. And then the Baltic and the Finland, I'm guessing that's something to do with, on Ancestry, what I had as Sweden and Denmark, perhaps. But I'm curious, where did my Germanic Europe from Ancestry, where did that fit in family tree DNA? And now I'm curious, I want to know what my heritage says. So I might have to spend the money to do that soon. That would be fun to find out. I also would love to get my kids' DNA done. I won't until they're of an age to really consent to that, but once they are, and they do, then I would love to see just what their breakdown is. I wish I could talk my sisters. I have 3 sisters, and I would love to get theirs done, just to see, just from a whole science standpoint, what did we get? What did they get from dad and mom versus what I got from dad and mom? I would be curious to see that. And then it'd be fun to see what my mom and dad, what they were. I could probably talk my dad into it. My mom, maybe. I don't know. But I probably could talk my dad into it. But it would be interesting to see what did they start out with and then what did they give us. Just on a science, that just fascinates me. But that was how I discovered where our particular lines came from. And it's funny that, just a random festival can bring that up. If last year we went to Oktoberfest to celebrate his German ancestry, and I wish if the Germans had more of a clan type breakdown in how they did things, I think I would have tried to discover that. I might do that anyway. I'm pretty sure I know where the German on my side comes from. I believe that's on my mom's. All that information that my grandma used to send me. I am pretty sure that I remember there being some Germans way back there somewhere. Well, that's the discussion on ethnicity breakdowns. If anyone has any questions or if you're curious about finding out your ethnicities, there's links down in the show notes for, I believe it's 20% off Ancestry or at least 10% off 23andMe. They also do the breakdowns. And you can do that, or you can email me at amanda@lifeanddna.com. I'll have my email and Instagram in the show notes. If you have any questions or you want to tell me what your ethnicity breakdown was, or if you want any kind of help trying to figure out where your line goes and where it came from, I'll also be starting a Patreon soon, so that if this also interests you and you would like someone to discuss it with, because like I said before, not everyone in our lives wants to discuss this with us. If you want like-minded people to discuss this with, I'll be starting that soon, and so you can sign up for that, and we'll have a Zoom call and we can just discuss it and look it up and figure it out together. Okay guys, thank you for joining me today talking about ethnicity breakdowns, and I hope you will join me Thursday when we'll be discussing how I started realizing that my mother was a narcissist. And check the show notes for how to follow me, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!